Mhm. Right. Are we live? I'm not sure yet. Something's beeped. So I think we're live. So, hello everybody, and welcome to probably it is going to be the last video from this tiny studio. I'm actually streaming here on limited kit because actually a lot of the stuff that I normally use for a live stream has actually already gone. And also I'm on a wireless internet connection because the landline's been disconnected. So apologies if the stream cuts out in any way. I've tried to be as diligent as I possibly can. I'm streaming in a low quality, and I have checked the connection to see if the connection speed that I've got is easily more than going to sustain what I'm streaming at. So the picture quality may be a little bit blurry. You'll just have to let me know if it's any good or not. I do have sight of the chat in front of me. Now, sometimes I used to be able to highlight comments and put them on screen. I'm not going to be able to do that this evening because, as I say, a lot of the kit that I normally use is no longer here. It's possible I may also be a little bit behind with the chat. If I'm looking at comments, I may be, I don't know, a few seconds behind, but I'll try and do my best. So, yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to kind of do really on this stream. It's kind of a goodbye from this space, which has served me really, really well for the last 4 years. And every single one of my music videos that I've kicked out on YouTube in that time has been created from this tiny space. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and perhaps what you might want to know for the future of this channel. But also, I think it's an opportunity, a last opportunity for a good while, for you to be able to ask me any questions. And usually when I do these, it typically follows a music track that I may have put up in the last few days or week. And of course, in this case, it follows Michael Jackson's Don't Stop Till You Get Enough that I released a few days ago. So if you have any questions about that, I've got my Cubase project ready. I have a few things that I might like to talk about if there are no questions, but I would encourage you to contribute so that this stream is a little bit more interesting and it's not just me rabbiting to myself. So before I get stuck into any of that, I'm just going to check the comments and see if we have got anybody in. We have Orchestral and Cinematic Education. Hello. And the connection seems solid so far. Fingers crossed it stays that way. I know that if you stream from a mobile internet connection, it can be a little bit temperamental. Fingers crossed it's okay. Yeah, so as soon as this live stream finishes, all of this kit is going to be removed. I've left as much as I can in place so that this stream would look as normal as possible. Things like the piano are still connected up. But the computer I normally stream from has gone. Some of the lights have gone. A couple of the monitors have gone that I also had in here. The Apogee Quartet that I use as my audio interface, that's gone. All the microphones have gone. So as I say, by tomorrow, this space will be a shell of what you see now. So yeah, I will be moving, and I'm anticipating that in about 6 months, it could be 6 months, I will be operating from a new studio. It may be sooner than that, but I need to get somewhere set up, and hopefully it will be bigger and better. But I do think that this space, if anybody has any questions about it, is an absolute lesson that you do not need a big room or a big space to be able to create music and have everything that you need at your fingertips. I have sort of done studio tours previously, but obviously a lot's changed in this space since I've done those videos. But this space is literally, it's 5 feet square. So I can touch the walls almost both sides, side to side and front to back. And if I stand up, I will bang my head on the ceiling. I have to crouch as I get out. It's in a tiny, tiny space. And yet in here, I did have at one point 2 computers, 3 monitors, video switches. There were 3 cameras, a teleprompter, multiple lights, big studio monitors, 2 audio interfaces, a piano, multiple MIDI controllers, Stream Decks. I've probably forgotten a load, but basically everything in here was at my fingertips, so that whether I was working on an audio production or I was editing a video or was recording some sound effects or I was recording voices, all of that could be done in here literally just by spinning my chair. And it took the best part of probably 2.5 years to get this space configured the way I wanted it. But it's going to be very sad to leave it because it's extremely useful. Obviously, it's going to be sad to see it go, but life moves on, and there are other more important things going on in my life at the moment. So, yeah, it's all going to be gone by tomorrow. So, if you have any questions, then let's have a see. Finley's Audio Adventure says, "Do you already know where you are going yet?" Right now, I don't. I'm hoping to get like a commercial space. I used to actually operate from, this is before I set this studio up, I used to actually run a media business from an office in what was Granada Studios in Manchester. And then that became too expensive and they were closing it down anyway. So I just basically brought everything to home. So I may sort of reassess whether that's going to be a possibility again. Having a dedicated studio space and working with other people, it's a possibility. But it is going to be some time before I can get set up. And Finley's Audio Adventure says that was like my bedroom as a kid. Yeah. This space, it's so tiny. That under the stairs cupboard been turned back into a cloakroom then? Yep. Go usurp Dr. Mix's studio. I wish I could. Yeah. Somebody suggested this week actually that I collaborated with Dr. Mix, which is not going to happen, is it? Because his channel's got millions of subscribers. So he's not going to collaborate with me. And also, I don't want to talk about somebody else, but we're not really compatible because his channel is very much these days about, he does a lot of stuff about AI and, it seems to be taking a lot of sponsorship deals, and that's what I've been trying to steer away from. So, I don't know whether you know, but every week, even every day, I get sponsorship offers. I know usually when you get, a few thousand subscribers, that tends to happen. I'm getting bombarded with them at the moment and I'm just ignoring them. So if I was going to take any sponsorship deals in the future, then it would be for a specific purpose that really interests me and that I think would benefit you. But I'm not going to sort of react to some random Chinese company who wants me to promote something. Just not going to happen. Paul Garth says, joking aside, hope it's positive move, Julian. I think it will be longer term. Just in the short term, I'm not going to be particularly productive. What I do intend to do, though, is even though I'm not going to be making any new content from this space, I may still be making more casual videos from a less than perfect environment. I'm still hopefully going to be able to make music. So if I publish stuff, it's probably just going to be screenshots of my Cubase project and not much more than that. What else was I going to say? Yes, the other thing is that I have actually pre-recorded some content that I haven't edited yet. And And I may start stitching some of that together so that over the next few weeks and months, there might be some more content coming out, but it'll be stuff that I've recorded previously and I've just edited it together. I'm also thinking of kicking out some not collaboration videos, compilation videos, like some of my best bits or what I thought I found most difficult or easy, or just different compilations so that people can enjoy a particular style of stuff that I've done. So comments again. Finley also says Dr. Mix also seems to have gone the sponsored door plugin route versus hardware. Yeah, I understand YouTube is very difficult, and I know myself that it's very expensive to get set up, and you certainly don't in this category of video if you're making cover songs, which often can't be monetized. In fact, nearly always can't be monetized. You either make nothing or very, very little money, pennies a month. So in terms of financials, I see why people seek sponsorships. And I'm not saying I will never, ever do it. In future, it might be that the channel grows big enough that I can justify it whilst maintaining some kind of credibility. But at the moment, it's not in my foresight. I don't think I'm going to be doing it. Yeah, Dr. Mix is dominated by product placement, very off-putting. Yeah, he used to do some really good kind of breakdowns and recreations. And these days he's only doing them because he's promoting a product that he's used to do that. And very often I think those recreations, like his older ones, are a little bit kind of thrown together. And I always think he could do a lot better than that, but doesn't. So David Frog said, why am I moving from there? This is just family reasons, really. I don't want to go into it. Some of you may know that I've also been, for a long time actually, I've been doing a lot of care work for my elderly mother. She's 89 and she has dementia. And she has now moved to a care home away from this area. So it's my intention to be closer to her so that I can visit more easily, while still doing more productive work for myself. And I'm going to be rekindling my media production business in an area where there's likely going to be, if you like, better clientele, going to be a better opportunity for business work. So there's a number of reasons for it. Terry Bartlett Railman 28. When you did the Airwolf theme tune, how did you feel? And would you like to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the famous helicopter show? Didn't know it was its 40th anniversary. How did it make me feel at the time? That was, I think, the second of the cover songs that I'd created. This whole purpose of this channel, which is now music, started by accident during COVID lockdown. And I'll tell you the story of how this actually began. And that's that it was, I think, it must have been 2020, 2021, whenever it was. I was working. I had some client work, video work, when it all got cancelled because of COVID and lockdown. So I found myself kind of stuck at home with very little to do. And I was watching reruns of 80s TV shows. And I happened to come across a rerun of Knight Rider, heard the theme tune, remembered it, and thought, I bet I could recreate that. So I had a go, put it on the channel, and it started getting some views. And a lot of people said, why don't you do Airwolf next? So I did. That went out, and that also started getting some views. And that really is how the purpose of this channel, as it is now, as a music production channel, started to grow. Prior to that, I was doing camera reviews related to my business. But I also became a little disillusioned with the camera YouTube space because that became very competitive, but also a bit meaningless. I don't know if you follow any of the camera YouTubers, but it's become, again, very much about the product and not about the art. And I really wanted to change that and become someone who was doing something a bit different to everybody else, something that perhaps not too many people could replicate. And I knew I had the skills and the equipment to do it justice. So I just went whole hog into music production. And that really is how this channel has grown over the last 4 years or so. So interesting though, I didn't know it was the 40th anniversary of Airwolf. That's really interesting. That could be something that I could revisit without having to create a video in somewhere like here. You know, I can maybe evaluate that project and sort of discuss what I'd do differently, and I would do things differently. I look back on some of those earlier projects and think that they are pretty bad. And Airwolf actually is definitely one that I'd like to redo. So yeah, it's going to be fun. So Paul Scarth says, I think you can get away with sponsorship. You've got a good sense of humour and can tailor it around a quick track composition. Thank you. I don't think it comes across enough. I do have a good sense of humour. I think because I'm naturally quite shy and I find these kind of videos quite challenging in a way. And initially it took a lot of bottle to put myself on YouTube. But I think because of that, I've probably not shown my more humorous side on this channel. I do have a very juvenile sense of humour. And I do like a laugh. So I think that may have come across in some of the videos that I've done, like when I've worked with Thomas on the Driving Home for Christmas video. That was basically comedic. And I did some silly dancing with Rick Astley's Together Forever. So yes, I do need to do more of that. And it's nice that you think I can get away with sponsorships. I'm still going to hold off, even when I get set up again in a different place. I'm still going to hold off. I know a lot of people have asked me to sell like MIDI files and project files and stuff like that. And I've been looking at this for a long time, and that may be an avenue for revenue in future. In fact, that's probably going to be something I'm going to be looking at behind the scenes over the coming weeks and months. I think I've got a big enough catalogue now to make it worthwhile. So yeah, watch this space. I need to watch my elbow doesn't go on the keyboard. So Finley's Audio Adventures says, in my opinion, the YouTube copyright system is incredibly broken. I got a copyright on composition, not recording. Really? Wow. Of a video I uploaded. The song has been in the public domain for almost, okay, 80 years. Yeah. Yeah, isn't it after 70 years of someone's death that it's no longer copyright? I'm not sure whether it is actually 80 years. I thought it was 70 years after someone's death. I may be wrong on that. But yeah, I've put some of my own stuff up and it's never been claimed, but I could be wrong. David Fogg says, I love Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. How long did it take you to record? Right. That's where we can probably start diving into the next part of this stream, I suppose. So surprisingly enough, I normally say that my covers take at least a couple of weeks to put together. And in some cases, in like some of the really complex orchestral ones, that can take 3 weeks, even a month to put together, because I'm very methodical. I take my time. And even once I've finished, I tend to hang on to it for a few days so that I can come back to it with fresh ears in a few days' time and make sure that I've not missed anything, or I'll listen to it in the car and in different environments. So overall, from start to finish, it very easily normally can take 2, 3, or even 4 weeks. Surprisingly, in this case, and I think I have Quincy Jones to thank for this. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough came together in 4 days. About 4 days, give or take. And it started by accident. I had no intention of making that particular track. I just happened to be looking for a bass patch for something else that I was working on. And when I found it, the bass patch was, I think I can probably play it you. It was just this, or down here. And I thought, that reminds me of something. It dawned to me, it was Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. And I thought, I'm going to do that. And that's how it all started. And because of Quincy Jones's spectacular arranging skills, basically the track mixed itself. So once I'd sort of found all the sounds that I wanted for each part, I had to do very little mixing because everything just fell into place. And for me, that is the beauty of a really good arrangement, is that you don't have to spend, ages making space for things. And actually, those individual elements are actually quite simple. It's just that when you put them together, the way that he's positioned them and where he's positioned them is all genius. So I thank Quincy Jones for recreating that track surprisingly easy. I'm not saying that it's easy that anybody could do it and it would always sound really good, but with the experience that I've got now, I did find it a lot easier than the other ones. So yeah, there you go. I'll talk a little bit more about the production in just a second. Apologies, by the way, if I'm looking down while I read these comments. Normally I have them in front of me in another screen, but I've got an iPad in front of me and I'm having to read it down below, so it might look a bit rude if I'm not looking at you. I apologise for that. Finley says he loves the Giorgio Moroder covers. Me too. In fact, if you look at my channel description, it says that Quincy Jones and Giorgio Moroder are pretty much my inspiration from my childhood. So the two of you have both named two of my most favourite producers. So Paul says, came here from the Baywatch theme tune cover. The attention to detail was fantastic. Thank you. Attention to detail is everything. I think it might have been Cinematic Orchestral Education who said to me a while back on one of my covers that he didn't know how I'd got the patience for all of the little tiny details. I think it was for Chariots of Fire. And actually, that's the bit that I enjoy the most. So sort of when you start recreating something or it doesn't quite sound right yet, that's the bit that I have to force myself through. I have to get over the hurdle of it sounding a bit rubbish or it doesn't sound like anything yet. I have to force myself to get through that phase. Once it starts sounding like the original and it needs tweaking, that's the bit I really enjoy doing. So I have no problem with attention to detail when it comes to getting all the tiny little elements right. That's just my personality, I guess. Knight Rider and Airwolf theme song mashup. Would that work? I'm trying to listen to it in my head now. Actually, it probably would. What a suggestion. Well, maybe if I get time, I may just do that. Mix it up. Yeah. Maybe I need to start doing mashups. So Paul says, do you compose by ear or would you download an arrangement and take inspiration if it was available? So you're asking specifically about composition. If I'm composing my own stuff, yes, I just doodle at the piano. Once I've got an idea, I then orchestrate it. If you're asking me about whether I recreate all of my covers by ear, absolutely. I've always worked by ear. I can't work any other way. I did make a video once about my background in music and, how I've evolved and how I learned to play the piano when I was 5. I had piano lessons, and I did take all of my grades, but I passed them not by reading music, but by watching my piano teacher and copying what she was doing. I've always been able to imitate, and whilst I can read music, I've never been able to do it fast enough to be able to play live from a sheet of music. I'm much better listening to a piece and then figuring it out. And I just seem to have the ability to be able to do that fairly quickly. So when I'm trying to recreate tracks, I am absolutely doing it by ear. I almost consider, if I was to get a script and start programming things in, I would consider that not just cheating and not personally satisfying for me, but I probably wouldn't trust that what I was reading was accurate. So when I'm trying to interpret stuff by ear, I'm following every nuance. So, what the bass line is doing, if there's a slide note, if there's a break in the bass note, I'm going to follow what I hear, not someone else's interpretation that's written down on a piece of paper. So yeah, always by ear, almost obsessively so. So Mike, my friend Mike, is saying, I'm gutted, Julian, what's next? I don't know whether you've just joined us, Mike, or how long you've been with us, but this isn't the end. It's a temporary pause, and I am looking for a new space. I just haven't found one yet. And whilst this will be the last video from this studio, and it will probably be the last video or the last cover song that you'll see in the style that you're used to, I am going to still try and create additional content in the weeks and months ahead, but just probably looking and sounding very different. Given that it's summer and the weather's quite nice at the moment, that might actually mean that I start vlogging from outside, just talking generally about music and commenting on things that I've done. So I haven't quite decided yet exactly how that's going to look, but things will look a little different for quite a while. Guilty as charged. Yeah. Yes, it was you. Kev, I just joined. Are you going to keep this stream as one of your videos for a while? I've noticed your prior live streams are not on your channel. That's a good question, Kev. I probably will keep it up, if for nothing else, for nostalgia. And because I think this studio needs a legacy. It served me very well. I'm very proud of it, and I don't really want it to disappear. So, and I think this could be quite good to look back on in, 6, 12 months time, maybe 2 years, and see where I am at that point compared to this time now. So would I leave it up? I probably will. Unless I do something really stupid and mess up, then yeah, I'll probably leave it up. Incidentally, you can usually find all of my past live streams in a playlist that I've called live streams. But if you go to YouTube's tab where I think there is a live stream option, they're not usually there. So it'll probably, after this will appear in that YouTube live tab and also in my playlist that I've got called live streams. What I tend to do is if a live stream is no longer relevant, so if I'm talking about a particular product that's really old or no longer exists, then in that case, that live stream would be unlisted so that it doesn't get shown to people, but it's still available in a playlist which is public. So I don't know whether you all know that, but that tends to be what I do. So Finley asks, have you ever thought of a way to pay for requests? Can't remember the other guy on YouTube, the play it by ear guy who will do on live stream for $50. That's not me. That's not me. I think if people want to contribute, that's always welcome. It's not in my nature to almost, it feels like fleecing people. So I said earlier on that if I was going to do something, I would, I would have MIDI files available for download that then become useful. And if people just voluntarily want to make a donation and thank me for my work, that's really, very much appreciated and absolutely welcome. But I'm not going to be one of these people who tries to fleece people by just saying, oh, if you make a request, I'll do it for this. No, this is not my style. So Finley's already, yes, that's the guy. Mike says, thanks, Julian. Mike's in Japan. So early morning here for me. I look forward to following you wherever you go. I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you've supported me on. I know that you did the mix challenge that we did. And yeah, it was been all great. I appreciate every one of you. And I've always said as well that my goal for growing this channel is to build a community and to have loyal followers rather than just go for the big numbers. Yeah, it's unfortunate that it doesn't make me any money. If I'm going to do some tutorial videos, then obviously I can monetize those. But I'm very careful. I'm very mindful that I don't want to become a bit like, as we've talked about earlier, how some other channels big channels have become very much almost singularly focused on products and sponsorships. That's not what I want. Yeah. Oh, Orkun's asked a relevant question, I suppose. I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name wrongly. Orkun K. When will you upload Big in Japan? So, Big in Japan was, I think, the third cover track that I attempted. In fact, it might have been the first one. I said that I uploaded Knight Rider first, and then it was Airwolf. But actually, we're going back 4 years now, and I attempted Big in Japan. And if you watch the compilation video where I've sort of put all of my cover tracks together, at least up till about Christmas this year, there's been a couple of others since then, maybe 3. But in that video, there is a sample of Big in Japan, which I never actually fully completed. I think the way it sounds isn't quite the way I would want it to sound if I was going to recreate it from scratch now. And it's just been one of those things that I keep putting off because I feel like I've already half done it. So I don't want to put this, double the effort in, but it's probably going to be too much work to unpick what I've done and carry on where I left off. I would probably have to start again. But it's a good question. Maybe I'll put up the version that I've finished as a short, maybe. But thank you. Good question. Paul says, I think Frank has quite a young audience. I think that's who you were referring to earlier about taking requests, maybe. Not that your audience aren't young. I don't know. If you look at the YouTube stats, and I look at where my audience is, generally, I think most of them are either from the US, the UK, or Germany. And most of them are blokes sort of around my age, which makes sense because, most of my stuff has been 80s covers. So it's going to attract people who are of the same age from me. Although just recently I have noticed that my cover of Children, Robert Miles, which obviously is a 90s track, has been for a long while sat not doing very much. And suddenly it's getting a lot of traction, about 5 times more than anybody else or any of the other tracks. So I appreciate that. Whoa, Paul, that is incredibly generous of you. Thank you very much indeed. He says, I know I missed the title and you surely said it already. I'll watch it back. Thank you, Paul. Very generous donation of €20. I appreciate it. That humbles me. Thank you. Orchestral and Cinematic Education says, do you have any further community ideas, Julian? I'm not quite sure. If you're talking about, can't put my teeth in. Although I've been doing YouTube for a long time, 4 years, I suppose, is a long time in the grand scheme of things. I'm still actually not that clued up on what's possible in the community tab, on the community tab. So, and I'm not sure whether I've even got some of the facilities that some other channels have got. I know that there are almost like some forum-like features, I think, that you get access to once you grow beyond a certain size. Now, I know this channel is coming up to, I think, 10,000 subs. I don't know whether something happens when you reach that milestone. But when I've looked, I've not seen anything that's made me go, ooh, I need to use that feature. So right now, the answer is no, but a timely reminder, and I will research it on your prompting. So thank you. I was searching the other day, have you done Cricket's theme? I think you mean Crockett's theme. I haven't. And there's a good reason why I haven't. It was on my radar. It was up on my list of things to do. But I follow, and I'm kind of friends with now, another cover artist called Cost Music. And he's done it. And his version is absolutely flawless. And I always say, if I find a version online that I think is unbeatable, there's no point me creating one. So whilst I was going to do it, I decided against it. And I'd highly recommend, if you haven't already subscribed to Cos Music, go and check him out. He doesn't post much these days. In fact, hardly at all. I think his last video was about 12 months ago. But he's made some of the most flawless covers in existence. I mean, if you listen to his cover of Axel F or the Top Gun anthem, they're literally flawless. So, you know, hats off to the guy. He's absolutely superb. So no, I haven't done that. So Finley says I'm the old. Well, you and me both. There's somebody else asking for, Crockett's theme. So you're just correcting your spelling. Orcon says, thank you for the answer. We're looking forward to it. Love from Turkey. You're awesome. Oh, thank you. And obviously Paul has seen Cos Music. Yes. Cos Music with a K, not a C, if anyone's searching for him. He's a nice guy as well. I actually did some voice work for him on, he did like a tutorial video because he uses, is it the Yamaha? Oh, what's it called? He's strange in that he seems to focus on one very old hardware synth. I think it's the CS1X. And he seems to use that. And he was making a video about it and asked me to voice it in a particular style. And given that I've got the recording facilities here, I did that. So yeah, I regard Cos Music as kind of a friend. Yamaha is made work. Oh, sorry, what? No, I'm not quite sure I follow that. So I need to thank Paul again for his absolute generosity. I know I've thanked him already, but this is Paul Byrne, by the way. I just need to just emphasize again how grateful I am. I think that's incredibly generous. Right, since I'm almost caught up with the comments, I'm going to switch over in a second to Cubase and sort of describe how I've gone about Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and the VST that I used, because you'd probably be surprised that it's almost exclusively one VST. So I'll come on to that in just a second. And Paul's saying, just wanted to praise you, Julian, on how humble you are. Rare to find a YouTuber like yourself these days. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think I've been humbled by a number of experiences in my life. I don't want to go into it, but to be frank, I've met a lot of arseholes, and I have no intention of being one. It's kind of it's almost been like the driver behind my life. It sounds almost wordy to say it, so I'm not going to harp on, but I just feel that it's important to treat people with kindness and respect, show humility, and encourage people. So, you know, if I'm going to work with people who are perhaps not as far on this music production journey as I am, I'm always going to encourage them. I'm always going to give them help and support. And that way, I believe we build a community. Many of you will know I'm not a fan of AI. I'm not going to be using AI in any of my videos. I think generative AI is theft. It's unethical with the energy that it uses. And I think ultimately it's going to destroy the creative industry and leave nobody left to create. But I think there needs to be space for a handful of people who in maybe 2-3 years' time have built a reputation of being someone who is authentic and has done everything themselves. And in that time, I want that person to be me. So there you go. Cos Music makes his Yamaha work hard, and you are so welcome, Julian. Thank you, Paul. Right, let's move over to Cubase. I'm hoping I'll be able to show you my computer screen without any technical issue. And I'll talk to you about this Don't Stop Till You Get Enough project. There we go. Is there something wrong with my monitor up there? No? Okay. Right, I'll put my... Oh, hang on, that's not working, is it? What's gone here? Right, I was trying to put a picture-in-picture on my screen with my computer, so I'm not sure I can do that unless... Just a minute. No, that's not going to work. Right. So this is my Cubase project. Oh, it's worked now. That's my Cubase project. And if I show you each of these channels, bar one, you'll probably notice that if you look on this column here, which shows you the instrument that I've used, it is pretty much all ReFX Nexus. Yeah, all the drums are Nexus, I think. Yeah, Nexus. The bass guitar was Nexus. The only thing that isn't Nexus is the horns. Now, you'll know I've selected that track, and I need to talk about it because the horns that I've used in this track were absolutely critical because Quincy Jones has that unmistakable style of, I think it's like two saxophones, one of them being a bass saxophone, a trombone, and two trumpets. And he's used it in Thriller. In fact, throughout the Off the Wall album, that's his style. And the only instrument that I had that would be able to recreate that sound was session horns from Native Instruments. But I had to do it in a kind of roundabout way to make it work, because the sound of those kind of crescendo horns where they start quiet and then they get loud and then there's a staccato end, that had to be performed over a set period of time that fits with the time signature of the piece. And if you have session horns, or you've ever played with it, or you intend to download it, that particular articulation that mirrors Quincy Jones's style in this track, if you use it in time with the beats per minute of this track, which I think is 119 or 120 beats per minute, then the crescendo and the decay isn't long enough. So what I had to do was change the time signature, play the part, render the music, or render that particular part to audio, and then change the beats per minute back to 120 in order to make those sort of crescendo, diminished articulations fit properly within this track. So it was a bit of a pain in the backside, but I managed to get it to work. Just checking the comments, because hello Steve Schnetzler has made a very good point. Make sure you take some video of your studio before you take it apart, so you have footage for your before and after video when you get your new studio. I look forward to it. Thank you, Steve. It's a good suggestion. I did have plans to do that. One thing I've stupidly done, though, is I've boxed up all bar one of my cameras. So, and the ones I've boxed up are the ones that I would use for creating behind the scenes stuff, because they've got, stabilizers built in and stuff. So, I will do something. I want to for myself as much as to share it with the channel. So, yeah. Things Eric says, I discovered your channel the other day searching for Flashdance What a Feeling instrumental. Impressed with your sound choice, voice programming, and full orchestration. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. I think I shall call you. Yeah, if you're new here, I am a bit of a detail-obsessed freak. But thank you. I appreciate the comment. It's very nice of you. Right, back to Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. So I've just talked about the horns and how I managed to get those crescendo elements to work, which, if I just play them, was kind of like this. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'm just going to do it very briefly. So that was generated by changing the time signature, rendering it out to audio, and then changing it back to its actual beats per minute. But the rest of the stuff was all ReFX Nexus. Every single one of the other tracks is Nexus. And for those of you that are interested, I've used the 70s expansion. I haven't before now downloaded too many ReFX Nexus expansions. I've mentioned in previous streams that I've got the retro synths, is it? Expansion? I think so. The Sounds of the 80s expansion, the Guitars expansion, and Analog. And I've now added to that the Sound of the 70s expansion. And I realised, having got it, that it would have been extremely handy for a couple of my other covers. For example, Jean-Michel Jarre's Equinox Part 5. I wish I'd had that expansion for that track, because there's a number of sounds in there that would work really well for it. But it's responsible for the strings in Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, those disco strings. I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without that patch. And then I just decided to search for, just sounds from the era using that patch. I'm sure I could have got the same sounds or very similar from other instruments. Like, I'm very used to using Retrolog 2. I'm used to using FM8. I'm used to using, what's it called? It's a really basic synth by, what's it called? Oh, I forgot the name of it. Polymax, that's it. UAD's Polymax. It's a really nice sounding, simple subtractive synth. And I've got kind of used to using that recently, and I got quite good at doing it. So I didn't need the Sound of the 70s expansion from Nexus for all of these sounds. It's just that while I'd got it, there was enough of the sounds that, well, I was likely going to need anyway, and I just thought I would just stick to it. And then maybe if FreeFX Nexus wanted to advertise what was possible with their expansion, then maybe they could use this if they pay me for it. Yeah, let's go quickly back to the comments, which there aren't any, so that's fine. So I don't know whether anybody wants to have a listen to some of these individual parts from ReFX Nexus 5 in isolation. The disco strings that I think was probably the most obvious one, which was this. The other thing I think is really important when I'm talking about, recreating tracks, although the sound is important, clearly, but you'll notice on all of these parts that it's not just me playing it mechanically. So there's a great emphasis on the first note in the bar. So I'm very careful to make sure that I get the expression and the velocities right on all of those notes, because if they were all the same velocity, let me just do this for you. Hold on. Put the screen on so you can see it. So if I was to put all of those notes at maximum velocity, oops, hold on. There we go. Then it's going to sound pretty mechanical. Just play that. It doesn't sound the same as if, you emphasize the notes that need emphasizing. It's subtle, but those are the details that I kind of obsess over. And in the context of a mix, if you have everything sounding really mechanical, then it really builds and you end up with a mechanical sounding mix. So if I've got any advice apart from, getting the notes right, it is get the expression right, get the velocities right, get the emotion of the track right. And I'll be fair and say that in some of my earliest recreations, I was less obsessive about some of that. And as a consequence, some of those earlier ones, I at some point would like to recreate again, because I'm not entirely happy with them. Okay, so let's have a see. So Paul's saying, yes, play them. Okay, we're talking about all the individual tracks. So I'm going to be very careful that I don't get copyright claimed. But I've already played you the disco strings. The other thing that I think is a nice, important, subtle number is tremolo strings. Now, this actually might be from a different expansion in Nexus. Yes, it is. It's from the Hollywood expansion. Actually, I told a lie before. I also have the Hollywood expansion for Nexus as well. So the tremolo strings, and if you know what a tremolo string is, it's kind of wobbly, like that. Because that makes quite a significant contribution to this piece in the section over here of the track. I don't want to play too much of it so I don't get copyright claimed. You're not going to get much from that, are you? But you'll hear it if you listen to the full mix on the channel. Those tremolo strings play a really important role in kind of building up to where the disco strings make that kind of real single note strike, and there's a pitch bend on the end of it. And that again actually is something I struggled with for a little while. Those disco strings, if we just look at them, where there's that single note strike, which sounds like this. Hold on, I'm soloing the wrong part. Disco strings, there we go. So it's this. So clearly the note in that expansion, or the patch in the Sounds of the 70s expansion Nexus, doesn't sound like that. I had to make it do that with some very kind of careful manipulation of the pitch bend control. So what I did was I could tell that when those strings strike, a normal violinist is probably playing the note and then sliding down an octave, but doing it really, really quickly. But also at that point, the volume or the velocity of the note is tailing off. So inside Nexus, I set the pitch bend parameter so that the pitch bend was going to operate over 12 semitones or an octave. So if you just bring the disco strings Nexus patch up on screen and show it you. So there you go. You should be able to see that the disco strings patch in Sounds of the 70s, and if we go to this modulation page, you can see that I've set the pitch bend control, which is just here, to -12 and +12 semitones. And if we then go back to the project window, so if I close down Nexus and highlight that punchy string part and then show you the pitch bend, you'll see that I've got, zoom in a little bit so you can see it, a pitch bend going down 12 semitones as the note strikes. So I'll just play you that again. And it took a little while to get that sounding like it was an actual violinist playing it. So it required the right velocity, the right pitch bend at the right point and at the right rate to sound authentic. Okay, just before I talk about any more of these, I'm going to read a couple of points. So, Orchestral and Cinematic Education says, Julian, you got the drums sounding very nice. Was there any additional processing used? Drums are usually hard to get sounding radio ready, as it were. Do you know what? It's only been a week, and I've kind of forgotten. I'm gonna have to check. Did I put any processing on it? Hang on, need to bring in the left control panel. Well, the kick drum is side chained to the bass guitar. Hang on, I'll show you that. So the kick drum is side chained to the bass guitar. So that's one thing I did. I don't have any effects on the kick drum. Now, what did I do? Did I send them to a group track? I didn't. Now, normally, I can tell you that if I was processing drums, I would send them to a group track and process the group track. I haven't done that in this project, and I don't know why. I suppose what you can see, if you look on this left-hand column, if I show you my screen again, you can see that I've done some significant EQ. So kind of like the bottle sounds and the triangles. This part wasn't all bottles, it was triangles and other little things that I know that Michael Jackson used for the percussion. I've just very significantly EQ'd out all the low end. Same on the other parts. I've just EQ'd out everything that wasn't necessary. Interesting enough, I haven't done on that. See, this is my obsession to detail. I'm disappointed with myself that when I looked at that track that I've labeled hi-hats and stuff, even though the hi-hats are not going to have any low-end detail in them at all, I'm disappointed that I didn't EQ out the low end. I've just omitted to do that. but I'm very persistent in making sure that I EQ out all frequencies that are not needed in any of the parts, just so that there's nothing that can potentially build up and create, bloom. So no, I haven't actually processed these. What I probably have done is just use the reverb and effects inside of Nexus. There must have been a reason why I did it. I must have liked the sound of it at the time, but that isn't my normal modus operandi, if you like. Shall we just play those drums all together so you can hear them? I'd be interested to hear them myself now, actually, and see. Actually, it does remind me, yeah. I now remember that when the track starts, after the initial bass solo, there's like a snare sound, and then the track really kicks in. And I know for a fact that I've made a mistake. That initial snare sound doesn't have enough reverb on it. So I'm going to play this really, really quickly. That double snare, that should have reverb on it, and it's not. So that was a mistake on my part, and is probably why I shouldn't have released it so quickly. I said earlier it only took me 4 days, this one. That's what happens when you rush things. But if we play all those drums together, that's what they sound like. And they do sound a bit dry. Maybe I got away with it because it was a 70s thing. And it sounded all right, so I didn't notice it, in the context of the mix. But actually, on reflection, I wish I'd done something different with those drums now. So, dear. Orchestral cinematic education, you've made me regret some of what I'm not blaming you, really. But you just pointed out something that I should have noticed. Paul says, wow, makes such a difference. And I think you're referring to the disco strings and the velocity changes that I was talking about earlier. Must be so satisfying to get it sounding right, says Paul. Yes, it really is. And it's what drives me to do this. It's the whole creative process, I think, should be almost painful. In some ways, I do kind of enjoy it, as I alluded to before, but it has to be painful. It's like climbing a mountain. If I see a mountain, I feel like I need to climb up it, and the journey, as challenging as it may be, is part of the reward. It's the same thing with music production for me. I enjoy the challenge, and it's satisfying when you know that you've put a lot of hard work in and your work has come to fruition. So, yeah. We've got another Paul. We've got 3 Pauls in this stream this evening. So this is Paul O'Donoghue, and he says, I love your music. You have talent. To quote a Stan Bush song, you got the touch. Oh, thanks, Paul. Would you ever consider covering the Brookside theme, the 80s extended version, also the Tripods extended closing thing? I don't know what you mean by the Tripods. I've not heard of that. But the Brookside theme, I have indeed thought about it. And you know, the only reason I've probably not done it already is because it's from a UK soap opera that was taken off the air, I think, because it wasn't that popular. So whilst there'll be a handful of people of our era who probably remember it, I'm not sure that the younger generation will recognise it, and it certainly wouldn't have international appeal. So whilst I perhaps would like to do it, I can tell you it probably wouldn't perform very well on the channel. Not that all of my stuff always does. There's a lot of stuff that I expected to do well and it hasn't. But I wouldn't expect that would get very far. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that was my thinking. Paul says the drums sound great to me. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's the strings. Grumpy Snapper, Grumpy Sapper, my apologies, says, hey, Julian, finally get to alive. Welcome. Thank you. Brookie was better than Eldorado. Yes. God, that was ham, wasn't it? For anybody who's watching who's not from the UK, Eldorado was a really, really ham-fisted soap opera, which I think was a bunch of English people based in Spain. Oh, it was awful. I don't watch soaps anyway. I hate soaps. I don't watch any of them. If you're from the UK, you'll know EastEnders, Coronation Street. What's the other one? Emmerdale Farm. I don't watch any of them. In fact, if soap operas come on the TV, I'd turn the telly off. But I did like the theme to Brookside. Paul Scarth. I've got to be careful I mention surnames because we've got 3 Pauls on the stream. There's something about social media that brings us Pauls out of the woodwork. Yeah. And Paul Byrne says, only just. So, yeah. So what else can I tell you about this Don't Stop Till I Get Enough project? There's a lot of hidden little parts that you don't notice. So I think in the first verse, you hear kind of what sounds like Michael Jackson humming. It's a very sparse part of the track. And I think this is another Quincy Jones trick. He strips everything right back for a period so that when all of the pads and the strings come in, it sounds fulfilling, satisfying. But in those parts where not much is happening, there are very, very low level, or what it sounds to me, very, very low level suggestions that there is something coming or that there is something there, but you're not supposed to hear it very much. And that's what I got from this opening section where I've literally just added this. You're going to laugh at this. It's just a... Oh, no, hang on. Take the drums off so you can hear it. So it's just this little vocal patch at a really low level. That's it. So throughout the whole song, that patch was used, I think, in that one little section. Just show you my screen so you can see it. In that one little section there, and then a little bit here. Just playing like 2 or 3 notes. And again, it's those little tiny details for me that make the difference. I would like to talk a little bit about that guitar solo in the middle, because now that was a challenge. But just let me check on the comments again. I'm trying to keep up with them. Ah, it's all right. It's only Paul saying only just. I'm saying only Paul. It's Paul. All 3 of you. So yeah, the guitar solo, which was really tricky. Now, again, I'll put me on for a minute. 80s music's guitar solo it's the thing that I love about 80s music. Every great 80s song should have a middle guitar solo where the guitarist goes nuts. And if you check out most of my covers, especially the Giorgio Moroder ones, Flashdance, I mean, even like the Rocky themes, there's usually a guitar solo in the middle. And it can be a struggle to recreate the guitar in a virtual instrument. And over the years, I've got better at manipulating pitch bend and modulation to make it sound as authentic as possible. In this particular track, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, there was also a hell of a lot of reverb and delay on it to make it sound massive. So I had to listen really intently to the original track and figure out what the hell that guitar solo was doing. And I'll play it you in isolation. Just got to fast forward to it in my project. Put the computer screen on. There it is. So it was this. So that I can tell you was probably the biggest nightmare to program. So it's not just making sure that all the notes were at different velocities so it sounds musical and natural. It wasn't just the pitch bend. It wasn't just the fact that the notes were a bit weird. So when you're using pitch bend, you've got to make sure that you're starting on the correct note so that it ends on the correct note. And then the next note, you have to manipulate the pitch bend so that it's not playing the wrong note again. It's a nightmare. So yeah, making sure that the expression and the vibrato was all present. There's a lot of kind of finesse involved in manipulating pitch bend, modulation, expression, note velocity, length. There's a lot of finesse in getting a guitar solo right and a VST instrument to make it sound authentic. And even then, when you listen to that in isolation, it's still not that convincing. But in the context of the mix, it does work. So if I had one dream, if you like, it would be that suddenly I could be programmed with the ability to play the guitar. Maybe at some point in the future I'll learn, but it's one of my disappointments in myself. I envy people who play the guitar because they can go somewhere, take their instrument with them, and perform. How the hell am I going to perform? So it's tricky, and there's not always a piano in most places. So, yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else that you would like to hear from this project? What time are we? It is, it's 25 to 12. It's getting near my bedtime. So I have been on over an hour. I'm going to sort of give you your warning now that I am going to start thinking of wrapping up and going to bed because I'm tired. But I will hang on for a little bit just to wait for any final comments to come through. And in the meantime, what I will do is show you the stereo bus in case you're interested in how I process my stereo mixes. Right, so let's show you that. So this is my mixer. And so quite simple really. On the stereo out bus, I've got an SSL compressor, bus compressor. Basically just catching all of the transients quickly. Then I've got a slow compressor, and there I'm using Waves CLA2A. I wouldn't recommend necessarily that you listen to me and go, oh, right, I need to go and buy a Waves compressor plugin. No, don't do that. I've just got used to using some of these because I bought them a long time ago. But in actual fact, Cubase now has very similar plugins built in that work in a very similar way. And I think I've said before that I'm not actually a very big believer in buying plugins to emulate the sound of old analog devices. I think you can achieve a similar effect with stock plugins in your digital audio workstation that come bundled with it, and then by applying EQ or saturation. I'm not quite sold on the idea that you need all of these fancy plugins, and some of them I've bought and it's been a mistake. So anyway, those are the two compressors I've got on. Then I'm using Waves Center. Then I'm using some tape saturation. So Waves Center, by the way, is a stereo widening plugin. It takes the mid and the side components and allows you to alter the volume of each one. So what I tend to do is if I find I've not panned things wide enough, then I'll just take the center plugin, and then because it's got separate volumes for the side content and the center content, I'll just very, very slightly tweak up the side content by about 1.5 dB. No more than that, otherwise it starts to sound artificial. But it just gives it that little bit of extra sort of panache in the stereo sound field. And then finally, I've got a maximizer. And for some reason, I've used Waves L2. I think I must have been in a Waves mood at that point. Normally, I would use Steinberg's Razor that comes bundled with plugin. It sounds better. It's faster. It's more transparent. So I don't know why I've used L2. I don't normally. Not anymore anyway. But yeah, that's what's on my stereo plugin. So Grumpy Sappers just said, can I be cheeky and invite you and your chat to my music quiz every Saturday 8 p.m? I'm not going to be on YouTube for a little while, so I would probably have to say no to that at the moment. I've got too much on. I'm moving. I say my mum's just been moved to a new care home. I've got business work that I'm setting up with. So right now, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to commit, but it's nice of you to ask and I appreciate it. So thank you. Paul says he's tired as well. Thanks for the vid and see you when we see you. Paul, thank you very much again. You're an absolute legend. Orchestral Cinematic Education says SSL gives a nice analogy sound. I use them on buses too. We even own a UC1 and a UF1 now. Okay. And Paul O'Donoghue says, have you heard of the Cities of Gold music by Shuki Levi? And Babylon 5 music by Tangerine Dream, former member Christopher Frank. I will check those out, Paul. I'm not familiar. Certainly with Shuki Levi. Or Levi, yeah. I will check them out. Appreciate that. I'm not going to call you Grumpy Sapper, even though that's your username. Thank you. Okay, right. Well, I guess this is it. This is going to be the last time you see me from this space. This is going to be goodbye to all of the gear in here. I'm going to look forward to making some new stuff from a new space. And I do hope that you will continue watching all of my cover tracks, or indeed some of my older kind of tips and tricks tutorial videos that I've put out, or indeed my original content. And I will try and come out with some other content that I can release on the channel that is still music related, but isn't going to involve me recreating a cover track from a dedicated space like this, because I won't have one for a while. So look out for that. Look out for compilations, commentaries and that kind of thing. I do have a goal. What month are we now? We're in July. I do have a goal that I want to be in sort of the autumn winter season. I want to make sure that I've got everything set up so that I can create a Christmas track for 2025. And with any luck, I'll get to collaborate with a friend of mine who I've already collaborated with, and which I would like to collaborate with again. So that's my goal for the rest of the year. Paul says, best of luck with the move, Julian. Thank you. And see you again in the future. Same again to both Pauls. Thank you. Yeah, you're all great. And I'm going to miss this space. Life moves on, but hopefully it's going to result in bigger and better things for both me, the channel, and all of you. I wish you well in all of your music production endeavours. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comment section on my channel. I will still be answering questions if you have them. And that's it. So it is now 20 to midnight. It is my bedtime. I am going to say good night and thank you for watching. So when I press this button, the stream will end.